How's it going, internets? I hope you're having a lovely day. It's that time again. It's time to get into some animation. It's time to get creative. It's time to get that imagination all pumped up and psyched. And it's time to get inspired. And today's inspiration comes from the one, the only, Salvador Dali. And if you're not familiar with him, check right over there. Yeah. He's a phenomenal painter, illustrator, basically almost a concept artist before that was really even a real thing that was designated like that. But yeah, he's just phenomenal. I love his sketch works. I love his drawings. You could tell that he just really had that creative, imaginative side, but it was really based in strong fundamentals of illustration and in drawing and in perspective and anatomy, and all that stuff is just so solid. And then since he mastered those fundamentals, he was able to just go in and just get into such unique and strange and imaginative worlds. He ended up working later with Disney and doing some of their at least consulting with a lot of their animation crew, especially on the stuff that they did for I think it was Three Caballeros, the South America animation stuff that they did. And I just love this. This is from Don Quixote, and you can definitely see the just crazy imaginative world in such an artist, because you know that there's definitely foundation and form and structure below that, where you can see that stuff that we talked about yesterday with like the diligence and the patience and observing and all of those fundamentals of being a good artist. And then he brings his own sense of self and his own imagination and his own experiences and thoughts and everything, and pushes that through a medium that you can definitely tell that he's studied and mastered on top of that. So definitely, if you haven't checked out his stuff before, like I said, personally, I'm drawn to just the drawings themselves more than paintings. I'm just more about form and structure and breaking those molds rather than color, just my personal taste. So I always love to see a good, solid, foundational drawing below that. But definitely check him out. And then I wanted to share a quote that I found from him, which is, "Drawing is the honesty of the art. There's no possibility of cheating. It is either good or bad." And I think that for myself is rings totally true. And I was listening to Steven Silver and his Art Talk, which is phenomenal. If you haven't followed his series, definitely check him out on YouTube. And he posted something up on his Facebook that was about and this could be a controversial subject, so I'll just tell you what the video was about. Was the talking about like Michelangelo and Da Vinci and Leonardo and all of the masters of their craft, and it just depends on whoever your personal favorite master is, but people who have studied and worked very hard to understand the fundamentals of their craft, and then sometimes broke rules or anything like that, versus this kind of a culture of art that now uses it rather as a means of expression rather than a masterful struggle, and just those kind of the dichotomy of those two. And while they're both art and some people lean one side versus the other, it's a very interesting setup there. And 1 second here, pause this here. Okay, sorry about that, a little distracted. Let me try and pick up that train of thought. So anyways, there's a video that Steven Silver posted, and definitely check out his Facebook page if you want to check out the video as well. But I think this quote with Salvador Dali and looking at his work kind of resonates personally with me a little bit more on that side, where you can tell that he gets a little psychedelic, he gets a little crazy. His work is definitely motivated by emotional stuff and experiences, and evokes stuff out of the viewer. But there's also, you can tell there's that studied foundation and structure and just talent and raw potential and a study behind the work that informs it, which is what creates that sense of a higher appreciation for the work itself. Versus if you look at the video that Steven Silver put up, the video shows that there's a giant rock at a museum that And again, I'm not going to say which way you should think. I just personally, for me, it resonates more with looking at stuff that I personally can appreciate more, and everyone can appreciate, has their own reason and their own perspective on how to do it. But I tend to enjoy stuff that has a large amount of craftsmanship, and then put on top with trying to evoke emotion or evoke feeling or anything, versus something that's done more as a talking point piece. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. And like I said, I try to stay in the middle, because I want to be able to appreciate things that people put thought and effort and work into. But personally, what resonates with myself more is going back to those older masters of their crafts, when people who've really studied and worked hard and just honed those skills more, and they can still evoke emotions and feelings out of people on top of that. So definitely check out Salvador Dali. And sorry if this was a little more rambly, but I feel like it was something that had been swirling around in my head the last few days, trying to figure out where I stood on that issue. And I think I'm somewhere in the middle, but I definitely know that I resonate more and have a higher appreciation for work when I know there's that large amount of craftsmanship and skill and just effort that has gone into getting to that level of production and art. So anyways, let's go ahead and get into some animation for today. This is the Blok rig. It's a free rig you can grab over at Creative Crash. And if you're not familiar with this video series, thanks again for watching. What we're going to be doing for the rest of the video is we give ourselves 48 frames. That's 2 seconds of animation, and we see where it takes us. Go out and find a new rig that I've never used, which creates its own strengths and weaknesses on itself, and a little bit of just over the shoulder kind of hang out with me while I animate, a little bit of instruction and kind of guidance along the way. And hopefully the takeaway I want to do for you guys in the community is that you have somebody in the trenches working there with you every day, trying to be creative, trying to come up with different things, trying to hone those skills, and that maybe you learn something throughout the video, or at least get inspired to go off and create something in whatever medium it is that you guys like to use. So that being said, let's go ahead and dive right in. And I will link, hopefully I'll remember, I should make myself a little note, to link to that video that Steven Silver posted, because I think it's really, really thought-provoking, and I'm not quite sure where I land on the issue of, stuff that's more extreme, and then it makes you think about it, it makes you talk about it, but perhaps there's less time and effort involved into it, versus the stuff that's really, really intense hard work and years of practice and skill. So I was thinking for this one, I had two thoughts, and sometimes I talk about this stuff, other times I just go for it. I wanted to do one where I haven't done kind of like a handstand thing in a while, and it just kind of felt like doing that, just something to mix it up for something a little bit different. But this is making me feel kind of like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs kind of feel with this rig. I feel like the way the body is laid out and everything, so maybe something kind of bouncy like that. But I think I want to do the handstand thing. I think that was my initial idea, and I just haven't done one for a little while, and I kind of was just in the mood to do that, so I think that's what I'm going to go ahead and do. And let's go ahead and grab this guy, rotate him around, lift him up, and let's grab the feet here. We're just going to try and create that nice storytelling pose to start off with, but we got to flip the body around if we're going to do a handstand. Get the feet. I don't know, for some reason I guess I have this kind of propensity to try and break rigs very, very often. I don't know why. I should just stick with more vanilla stuff sometimes, but I think it's fun to push a rig and really see how far it can go and what ideas we can come up with and everything for them. I think that's part of the fun of this. Another thing, evidently I'm just kind of in a chatty mood, and a couple of things have been swirling around in my head. I started going back, as I've mentioned before, I'm kind of really big into improv. I think there's a large amount of that I'd love to see in art more. And then here I am kind of getting on a soapbox talking about how I like the masters and stuff, but I also like good But I picked up on YouTube, and definitely check it out if you haven't before. It's called what is it? Drew Carey's Green Screen, or the Green Screen Show. No, I can't think of it, but it's something like Green Screen Show. It's from the people who basically bring Whose Line Is It Anyway, which is a show that I think does not get enough praise for the amount of skill and craftsmanship that you can see those guys have spent years getting those thought muscles and everything going. But it's really cool, and it blends animation with it, which I thought was the first time that I could really come to really see where improv or those quick acting beats might play into animation. But again, you can see even just when he introduces the show and everything, he talks about they come up with this stuff and then they pass it off to animators, and then like a year later they put it on TV once the animators have done animating the shots. So again, I mean, it's not that intensive with the improv on the animation, except for that it gives the animators kind of free range to come up with the concepts and the ideas and everything there. So I think that's kind of neat. Let me know what you think. I'll probably have some more concise opinions and ideas on how I feel about that stuff as I kind of continue watching. It's just something that when I'm working on one of the books that I'm going to be putting out later, I kind of have on in the background. But it's a really interesting show, and like I said, I'm enjoying it because it blends animation with that kind of improv acting style, and there's really not too much improv in animation, and I think there's a big place for it. It's just, but one thing that, again, I guess I'm in a chatty mood. Sometimes I talk more about how to, and this one's more just kind of a thinking one, but it's every day, so I get a little bit different every day. Oh shoot, I lost my train of thought here. I was just moving those hands. I don't know where I was going, but I think there's. Oh yeah, here we go. I think as perhaps motion capture gets better, and as programs get faster and easier to use, there's this cool thing that I saw. There's a couple different versions of them, but I think Crayola has one, and there's another company that does it as well. It's really cool. It's like almost like a mannequin style, but say like a USB connected mannequin, and you can pose the mannequin, and then it creates a pose in a program that's similar to Maya. And I think if they could kind of blend that software with kind of some mocap, and you could just kind of streamline this process a little bit faster, you could start to get into improv. So I'm excited for seeing how the future of this industry grows in that way, so that you can come up with maybe not as polished animation and just more quick ideas. And you can see the popularity of animation is growing, and that people aren't really as into polished animation these days. There's a lot of studios that do quick animation, especially just on YouTube, things that'll get hundreds and thousands of views, and they're popular not because necessarily the animation is super polished, but more because the ideas are there, but you can push it a little bit further with animation, where you could you don't have to buy huge props or get great camera angles. You can do it all in animation and get those ideas across. So I think there's that blending there, so I'm excited to see where that goes. But anyways, I'll stop rambling and let's get into today's video. But definitely let me know your thoughts on any of that stuff down in the comments below. As always, I'm always excited to see and hear what you guys think about any of this stuff. And thanks again for all the likes and subscribes. And I think we've finally got a good storytelling pose, and I'm just going to delve right in here and make sure we have only our curves, nerve surfaces, and polygons selected. And let's go ahead and grab everything. Let's go ahead and save our file. Control S, and I did already save a version, so I'm just going to save a new one, and go ahead and go to frame 0 and set a key, and let's get started here. Move that hand forward, set that, and key that one, move those hips forward. Let's do the hips and the feet together just for now. Actually, yeah. I might switch the feet to an FK instead of IK feet. I feel like that might be a little bit better, but we'll see. I don't even know if there is that option on these feet, so we'll work with that. We'll see. Sorry, I got the hiccups today. And we're just going to lay in the foundation, which is mostly just the hips, and normally it would be the feet, but in this case, since it's kind of a handstand, it's going to be the hands. And the important thing with handstands is you want them to feel like there's some pressure. You don't want straight, really straight arms, because if you do that, it won't feel like there's a lot of weight there. You might do a little bit of a straight, probably like on the passing position, but for the most part, it's okay to kind of keep those bent, because most people, if they're doing a handstand-like movement, don't have complete strength and balance to keep their hands really straight up and down. But that's what's cool about here we go, getting chatty again. There's a contortionist that I watched recently who was able to get those really nice straight, and I as I get more and more into this animation thing, I have appreciations for new things that I didn't necessarily have before. A lot of athletics that watch a sports game or whatever, but like Olympic stuff where I realized that it was never something I could do, but I have such more of an appreciation for it as I get more into body mechanics and everything and understand that stuff. Well, not completely, but in a better mentality than I used to. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. We just kind of built in the steps here. Alright, it's working okay. Let's go ahead and take a look at these hips. Window, Animation Editor's Graph Editor. That should be the Translate Z here, so let's go ahead and clean that up, because I felt like it was a little bit slow in and slow outy before with a little bit of jerkiness, so let's just make that a constant here. And let's see. Let's kind of look at we probably move this hand forward a little bit more. Spacing between the hands here. I think the first one should probably be forward a little bit more here. Okay, let's go and take a look at that now. Okay, we'll go ahead and save where we are here. And let's go ahead and lock in those hand poses again, and we'll get into our passing position here. So go ahead and raise that up. Plant it down. Raise it up. And plant it down. Go to the other side here. And again, I'm just going to lock in. Just hit S on the keyboard, make sure we really locked in those poses that we want. And let's get those passing positions up here. I think we're going to probably have to change the background color or something too, so this character stands out a little bit more. It feels like it's feeding into the other two colors a little bit too much. Back to our perspective window here. Okay. Let's see. Okay, let's get a little bit of up and down going here. So go ahead and raise it up here. And plunk it down. Raise it up. And plunk it down. Raise it up. And plunk it down. Raise it up. And plunk it down. And let's go ahead and clean that up. Let's just start translate Y's. And the one thing we have to be careful is there's this particular rig, this character, has a large head, so we have to be careful of that head not slamming into or through the clipping through the ground. So we'll have to go back. We might have to change the rotation a little bit on the head or the neck, or we might have to change the up and down as well. So we'll see here. Okay, and let's go ahead and do a little bit of side to side. So we'll lean over here to allow for the weight to kind of be shifted over the planted hand here. Occasionally I'll probably call them feet just because I'm used to what's at the bottom, but this is a handstand, so those are hands. And I'm sure that was not a necessary comment. This is a handstand, so those are hands that are on the floor. But, yeah. Hour and a half long YouTube video. Sometimes I'm probably going to say ridiculous, stupid things. Sometimes, perhaps more than sometimes. Okay, and let's do a little bit of rotate here. So we're going to rotate. Actually, I'll probably do something like that. So we're going to use the rotate from the chest to kind of favor it a little bit more. And bring back games. Let's see here. It's probably too much. So let's minimize that and clean it up a little bit. And again, when you're doing really polished, finished animation, you're going to want most of this stuff to really be a little bit tighter. So everything should be on kind of at least 2s and 3s, if not 1s. And it depends on the kind of movement you're going for as well. That's right. Just seeing if I put all my weight on it, it will go down. Let's zero that out. Just have to do a little more side-to-side lean there. Okay, and let's go ahead and clean that up here. Let's rotate the Z here. Should make that a little more universal from where it's at. And like I said, I think I need to do a little more translation in X here to really get the feel that it's over that planted hand. So we're just going to go into translate X in the graph editor, and we'll just kick that up a little bit more. And we'll do it on the other side as well. So let's go and look at that now. Okay, and let's do a little bit of rotate Y here to favor the planted. Actually, I'm going to do the other way because the hips are going to do that. Or the chest is. And let's scale it back a little bit more. And you know what? I didn't do my backup recording, so hopefully I haven't lost anything yet. And let's just turn our backup recording here on. Okay, there we go. And let's go ahead and look at the back again. And we're going to do those rotate Ys here. In this case, we are going to favor the forward planted hand there. And the other side. We're just kind of offsetting what we did in the hips here by what we're doing with the chest. And let's go ahead and clean that up a little bit more. We'll save our file, and we'll take a look at the feet and start working those in. We'll come back and do some more in the hands, then in the head. And hopefully get into a better place after that. So let's go ahead and see it down here. Okay, first of all, let's see if there is an F key on the feet there. No, sometimes they hide it in this thing. Doesn't appear like it. So let's just keep it with what we have here. Let's look at the translate Z and kind of even that on a little bit more. It's a little janky with what we have right now. And let's make that a constant here. Or at least a pretty steady string there, so that there's a good amount of even moving forward on the feet. Let's see. Serial mounts. Let's go and look at that now. Yeah, let's do a little bit of rotate here. Rotate that way. Rotate that way. Rotate that way. And back again. So let's go ahead and look at that. Let's go ahead and do a little bit of up and down here. So we'll go down there, up there, down there, up there, down there, up there, down. So let's go ahead and look at that then. So this will be down. Probably a little too much up and down just to do a little bit, so let's go ahead and scale that back a little bit more. Yeah, we'll kind of vary the feet a little bit more so it's not just like one foot is perpetually higher than the other. And let's go ahead and do a little bit on the toe. Do we have an ankle pivot or something? Let's see, toe pivot. Do a little ball swivel, I guess we could use that. Let's just go ahead and go back to 3 here. Actually, I want to drag, so just add a little bit of drag into those feet a little bit. Let's go and see how that looks. Thought there might be like a toe rotate. Don't look like there is, so that's okay. And then let's go ahead and vary the translate Y's a little bit more on this guy. Just so there's some more alternating. And let's do kind of the opposite here. That one's higher, and then that one would be lower. Just so there's a little bit of variation there. Let's go and see that. It still feels like those are a bit too high. So let's go ahead and look at it now. Maybe we just need to accent the lowers a little bit more. These ones. Let's see. Let's go ahead and maybe we'll do a little bit of knee rotate here and translate. So the knees will lean into it. Let's kind dots here. So let's go and see that. Maybe we'll switch that ball swizzle a little bit more, kind of try something different there. Try something a little bit like that. Let's compare the translate Y's a little bit more and try to find something a little bit more in between there. Figure out why those just don't seem to be doing as well as the other one. Let's try it. Let's go ahead and that foot, and maybe we'll push it forward a frame. And this foot and knee, maybe we'll push it back a frame, just so there's a little bit of variation in between them. So let's go and look at that now. I still feel like this one never gets as low as I want it to be. Let's go ahead and just pull it down a little bit more since let's see if we can't do something with the toe to maybe break it up a little bit more. Just so there's a little bit of bounce there. Back, drag back, flop it up, drag it back, and it's probably too much, so I might minimize that as well. So let's minimize it, and let's see. Let's try doing the inverse, because I feel like that's not the right way that we approached it the first time, so let's see. That feels pretty good. Keeping it nice and loose there. And let's go ahead and go with this guy. Let's go ahead and see if we can't do a little bit of up and down. Yeah, that little bit of squash and stretch kind of feel to it. It's probably too much, and we'll probably delay it a couple of frames as well. Yeah, definitely too much, and let's first delay it like 2 frames. And let's definitely do less stretch and more squash here. So that stretch feels like it minimizes a little too much. So I'll just do more squash there. So let's see. I've got to find a better balance between the two. I'll just do a little more up and down then. Just crank them up some. Let's see. Just less up and down overall. This guy. Shrink it back just a little more. It feels like it's just kind of making those feet feel a little stubby. I'm going to do a little bit of up and down here. Accentuate that squash and stretch here. So let's see. I don't know if that did what I wanted to. Let's try going the other way here. Let's look at it now. Push it one from forward. So you see it. You see that? This squash up and that stretch out, and then it alternates there. So it's that kind of change of the volume shape there. That feels pretty good. Let's go and save this. Let's get into those hands a little more. Let's grab this guy. And let's go ahead and set that. Overlap with the fingers, and it'll give us more of that plant. Okay, let's go to the other side and kind of do something similar. Again, we're just going to lock in all of our main keys again here. Okay, let's go ahead and drag that a little bit, lift it up a little bit there, plant it down, and this is one of those times where we're just going to use the universal controller instead of going through each individual attribute so that we can get that nice thing, because otherwise it wasn't giving us. That feels like that might be a little too much, so we'll scale back a little more. And now that we're doing that, I want to take the translate Ys and increase those a little bit more. So that it raises up a little bit higher so we still get that lift off, because right now with that drag it doesn't feel like it's really peeling off the ground too much. So let's go ahead and give it a little more. this side again. Again, we just want that feel that it is picking up off the ground, probably a little bit more than that. And it's going to look at it again. And don't forget to change camera angles quite often in your shot so that you make sure that you're making everything work from all camera angles so that it'll be believable throughout. And let's get a little bit, I didn't really do much for hand posing to start off with, so let's get a little bit of spray there. And let's go to the other side and drag that one. Pull that one out. Just to get a little more interesting hand posing than what we had previously. And let's see if we can't get that thumb out of the ground there. Doesn't look like it gives us that option. Oh well. We can always go ahead and redo our hand poses, but I think for the sake of time, we'll just keep it with what we have. So let's go ahead and get in those fingers. Again, we're just kind of lock down, similar to what the posing we had before. And let's go ahead here, and we'll just grab one of those and we'll drag them a little bit. Stretch them out. Plant them down. Okay, I'm going to drag them here. Stretch them out and plant them down. So let's see. I think for our stretch out, we'll do that one frame before. Let's see. And maybe a little less. Here, I think we're going to need to raise that hand pose up a little bit more. Make sure it's out of the ground. And now let's get into doing some variation here. We'll grab what's index 1. It's the base. Okay, so we want 3, 3, 3, 3. And we'll go all the 2s too. And we'll go ahead and delete those. Let's try it again. 2 and 3, and 2 and 3, and 2 and 3, and 2 and 3. And we're going to delete those. And let's just grab all the 3s, which is just the tips. We're just doing this so there's some of that successive movement where the base will move, then the mid, and the tip. Just adds that little bit of extra life into the fingers there. And then let's go ahead and take the index and we'll push that forward a frame. And we'll take the pinky and we'll drag that back one frame as well. And that will give us that little bit of cupping movement throughout, which is led by one and followed by the other. And let's go ahead and see if we can't get a nice bit of thumb in here as well. Do a little bit of thumb. See, there's no drag or anything. Can't get any rotate. So, what's this thumb splay? There we go. There's the thumb splay. Let's move that out. There's that pinky splay. Actually, keep that. see that change of shape. Well, these thumbs aren't exactly ideal for doing this, but at least get some movement throughout there. Overshoot a little bit there, and get back on 37. So that way we at least get a little bit of movement on the thumb. Okay, let's go ahead and save what we have, and let's go ahead and look at the other hand and kind of do a similar thing there. So again, we're going to lock that pose in, lock that in. Let's go ahead and grab the second and third parts of each finger, and we'll delete those a frame, and the third parts, delete those a frame. Let's see here. I think we can drag everything a little bit more on these though. Let's see here. Let's go ahead and grab the index and push that forward a frame, and the pinky, I will delay it. And I think we need to raise the hand up a little bit more so we don't get that intersection. See, like right here, I want to make sure that we really get that lifted off the ground there. Let's go and look at that thumb again. It's actually, I think we were able to do a little bit better with the thumb spray here. We can tweak it up a little bit more. So like that. Okay. Let's just delete one. And again, we're just going to key that there, and key that there. And again, we just selected these particular ones and keyed selected rather than hit S on the keyboard, because then we would be tagging everything. We don't really want to do that on that hand. We just want to do the thumb. So drag that thumb a little bit there. Raise it up a little bit there. Down. Drag it down there. Lift it up. So let's go and look at it now. Translate X. Huh. It's kind of a different way that the head moves here. Okay, so let's just do rotate then. Multiply. There. So and we'll probably squash that back down again. Let's see here. Yeah. I think if we delayed that about 2 frames and really neutered it up a lot, we'd probably get something that would work. So it's got to just a little bit of give in that head. I think overall that works pretty well. Again, we kind of want to do something that's more of a down angled shot. And let's go ahead and turn our curves off. Let's go ahead and save our file here. And let's see if we can't get a little bit better colored background. So let's go ahead and create another camera here so we can kind of walk off with this camera. And go look through cam 1. And we'll create another polygon primitives cube here. Just give us a different background color here. Stretch it out, squish it out, rotate it a little bit. And let's right click on it and assign new material. And let's give it a blend. And maybe let's be spicy today. We'll give it a color here. No? Doesn't want to do that? Okay, let's step back then a couple. And let's assign new material. Let's do a Lambert. Maybe we should have our colors on. Okay. Let's do a Lambert color. There we go. Gives a nice little muted red. And let's go back and look through our perspective here. Pull that over, rotate it a little bit. Stretch it out. Go ahead and stretch this one out. And let's go ahead and look through our perspective window again. Okay. Just a little more so pop out a little bit better. I think that turned out pretty good. We might do, let's show our mirror curves again. And let's see if we can't get a better little bit of a gap in there for just posing wise. Would help there. It's probably a little too much. Maybe we could favor that one a little bit to the other side here. Just for posing wise, that little glimpse will help with the silhouette overall. Turn our curves off, and let's see here. I think overall that one was pretty fun. So let's take a look back at where we started. We were looking at Salvador Dali, and drawing is the honesty of the art. There's no possibility of cheating. It's either good or bad. And I think kind of harkens back to something that we see a lot is just study those fundamentals of whatever medium you're working with. Try and understand them as best as you can. Try and master them. Try to take whatever they are and flip them on their head and see if you can do it that way. Try and take it what it is and do it backwards and see if you can do it that way, and keep just reiterating until those are ground into you and they're just part of who you are. And then take the other parts of who you are and blend them with those, and you'll get something phenomenal in the end. So that being said, thanks again for watching, everyone. Thanks for liking and subscribing. You guys are awesome. You're amazing. I hope that you're continuing in your journey towards becoming a master of whatever it is that you guys are working on. I always appreciate any sort of comments and all the likes and subscribes. And feel free, if you end up using this rig in one of your animations, to share it back so we can see all the cool stuff you're coming up with. I really did like this rig. I think it's really fun. And it's really real basic but real easy to use, and seemed like it was able to get a lot of good things out of it. And then don't forget too, if you're if you're a musician, or if you're a sculptor, or if you're a photographer, or any sort of creative person, definitely just share whatever it is that you guys are creating, so that we can see all the amazing stuff that you guys are coming up with. So that being said, thanks again, everybody. You have a lovely day, and with that being said, I guess we'll see you for some more animation tomorrow.